Welcome to the Weekly Voice World, top 10 weekly stories that made global headlines on weeklyvoice.com, presented by the Voice News Network, the largest South Asian news platforms in Canada. Let's get started. The White House says its first direct nuclear talks with Iran since 2018 were very positive. Held in Muscat, Oman, the talks featured Trump envoy Steve Witkoff and Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi. The meeting marked a thaw after years of silence following Trump's withdrawal from the 2015 nuclear deal. Both sides agreed to meet again on April 19th. The U.S. is pushing for diplomacy, while Iran seeks sanctions relief but insists on keeping its nuclear program. Trump says he wants peace, but not at the cost of allowing Iran nuclear weapons. The two sides remain far apart, but this dialogue could be the beginning of a new diplomatic chapter if both parties stay at the table. Pakistan is distancing itself from 2611 accused Tahawwur Hussain Rana following his high-profile extradition to India. The 64-year-old, who was convicted in the U.S. for terror-related charges, has now been sent to New Delhi after exhausting all legal appeals. But in a statement this week, Pakistan's Foreign Office declared Rana a Canadian national, not Pakistani, saying he hasn't renewed any Pakistani documents in over 20 years. Rana is accused of conspiring with David Headley and Pakistan-based terror groups to plan the 2008 Mumbai attacks, which killed 166 people. India's National Investigation Agency says his extradition is a major breakthrough and could expose key links to Pakistan's intelligence network. Despite mounting evidence, Pakistan maintains it had no role in the attacks, even as Rana's longtime connection to Lashkar-e-Taiba and David Headley is expected to take center stage in the coming trial. India now holds a crucial figure in one of its darkest terror cases. Relief for tech lovers, smartphones, computers, and key electronics are now exempt from President Trump's massive 145% tariff hike on Chinese imports. The move spares giants like Apple, Microsoft, and Nvidia from potential price spikes, with analysts calling it a win for investors. Trump says the goal is to bring manufacturing back to the U.S., but chip makers in Asia may actually benefit in the short term. While devices like the iPhone are safe for now, Trump has warned the 10% base tariff still applies and broader economic risks remain. Bottom line, consumers avoid sticker shock for now, but uncertainty still clouds the tech supply chain. As Canada heads to the polls on April 28th, all eyes are on one powerful stretch of suburbs, the 905. Covering Peel, York, Durham, and Halton, this Toronto area belt holds over 30 swing ridings, more than all Atlantic provinces combined. In 2015, the 905 helped to deliver a Liberal majority. Now it's back in play, with Mark Carney leading a Liberal resurgence and Pierre Poilievre ramping up his presence in the region. The outcome here could decide whether Canada ends up with a minority or a majority government. The stakes? Control of Parliament. Carney's economic credibility is resonating with voters spooked by Trump-era trade chaos, but the Conservatives are still pushing hard after flipping Toronto St. Paul's in a 2024 by-election. In this election, it's not just policy, it's leadership, and the 905 is the battlefield. Massive pro-Palestine demonstrations have erupted in Bangladesh's capital, Dhaka. Thousands marched under the banner March for Gaza, calling out both Israel and the United States. Protesters chanted anti-Trump slogans, beat images of Netanyahu, and demanded their government cut ties with Israel. Political parties from across the spectrum, including the BNP and Jamaat-e-Islami, joined in. Security has been tightened, especially around the U.S. Embassy, after earlier protests led to unrest and targeted Israeli-linked businesses. As Gaza's humanitarian crisis deepens, international backlash continues to spread far beyond the Middle East. In a major diplomatic turn, the United States and Iran have held their first direct nuclear talks in nearly a decade. The meeting took place in Oman between U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff and Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, marking a rare face-to-face exchange since the Obama administration. Both sides called the session constructive and agreed to meet again on April 19th. Key sticking points remain. Iran wants sanctions relief, while the U.S. is demanding Iran dial back uranium enrichment, which currently sits at a dangerous 60%, nearing weapons-grade levels. Israel, meanwhile, is pushing for a military-style Libyan solution, something Iran flatly rejects. With regional tensions high and a fragile global order at stake, the world will be watching what happens next. Israel has completed a new security corridor cutting off the city of Rafah from the rest of Gaza, signaling plans for a wider military campaign. Defense Minister Israel Katz confirmed the move, calling on Palestinians to reject Hamas and free hostages. The corridor effectively places more than half of Gaza under Israeli control. Humanitarian aid remains blocked, and rights groups have condemned a U.S.-backed plan that could lead to the voluntary relocation of Palestinians. Meanwhile, airstrikes continue as the IDF targets rocket sites in Khan Yunis. Russia and Ukraine are back to blaming each other after a shaky U.S.-brokered ceasefire collapsed just days in. Both countries had agreed to a 30-day truce to protect energy infrastructure, but confusion over timelines has sparked renewed attacks. Russia says Ukraine violated the deal more than 60 times. Ukraine claims Russia launched over 70 missile strikes and 6,000 bombs since the agreement began. Meanwhile, U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff met with Putin to salvage progress, and Trump called the war senseless, but offered no new solutions. On the ground, the war grinds on. A Ukrainian fighter pilot was killed intercepting a Russian attack, and new drone strikes in Kherson killed at least 2 civilians. The so-called truce is rapidly unraveling. Tragedy in Santo Domingo has left the Dominican Republic in mourning. The death toll from a nightclub roof collapse has risen to 225 after more victims died from injuries. The collapse happened during a live merengue concert at Jet Set nightclub, injuring more than 200 people. Among the dead, former MLB stars Octavio Dotel and Tony Blanco, and beloved singer Ruby Perez, who was performing at the time. An investigation is underway, but no cause has been confirmed. Biometric identification slowed victim processing, and vigils continue across the capital. With public trust shaken, officials are now facing calls for emergency inspections of entertainment venues nationwide. Former Trump trade negotiator Robert Lighthizer says Canada might actually benefit from America's aggressive new tariff strategy. Speaking in Ottawa, Lighthizer argued that tighter U.S.-Canada trade without Mexico could bring new economic strength. He criticized Chinese investment in Mexico and called for a separate Canada-U.S. trade framework under CUSMA. While Canada is currently spared from the harshest tariffs, many industries like steel, potash, and energy are still feeling the sting. Lighthizer urged Canada's next leader to act quickly on bilateral talks, but political leaders are split. Poilievre wants faster renegotiation. Carney seeks a broader economic pact. Singh warns against trusting the U.S. after repeated tariff violations. The debate over Canada's trade future is just heating up. That's all for today's top stories. Thank you for joining us on The Weekly Voice presented by VNN. Stay informed, stay engaged, and we'll see you next time.